What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm DS, and as always, I'm here with my guy, Dino Bam Bam.
What's going on, Dino?
What's up, brother? It is good to be back.
It is very good to be back after that little short hiatus.
Short hiatus, but we're back, and in grand fashion, because today we wanted to touch on the next massive UFC fight coming up October 21st. And if you're a fan of MMA at all, obviously you know what it is. It's the rematch, Charles versus Islam in Abu Dhabi. And we really just wanted to break it down because I feel like a lot of people are counting Charles completely out.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, so we wanted to just make a video because, after all, this is MMA, right? Anything can happen. And it's Charles Oliveira. I mean, we got to give the man his respect. I mean, he's the best champion we've had in the last few years, arguably, in any weight class. So we wanted to touch on his routes to victory, his path to victory, and what Charles Oliveira needs to do to have a chance and to be able to beat Islam in this one. Dino Bam Bam, what are your thoughts in general on Charles Oliveira, on the fight coming up?
All right, so with Charles Oliveira, first things first is we've talked about this a bunch of times. To me, if you take Conor McGregor out of the equation, I think Charles Oliveira is the biggest star in the entire UFC. Yep. We were at International Fight Week, UFC 290. And we got to see a bunch of the fighters. We got to see, hang out with a bunch of fans and stuff.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, the biggest crowds were around two people. It was Israel Adesanya and it was Charles Oliveira. Izzy obviously just lost to Sean Strickland.
Yep.
Got to assume some of the fan base, was going away with all the bullshit that was going on during
And
fight
not just
week.
that, he also lost, 2 fights before that, too.
Yeah.
So I do think, and then he's been cringe. He's always cringe, but when you're winning, it's different when you're losing. So I do think that some of that Izzy star power is waning a little bit. And has transferred, really, to Sean Strickland.
Yeah, probably. But we are talking about Charles Oliveira. So the way I wanted to do this is we have 3 things that we want to talk about. Or, I'm sorry, 3 ways that we think... 3 reasons why we think Charles Oliveira can win this fight.
Yep.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to tell you the reasons why we think he absolutely can win this fight.
And he can.
After those 3. And it might not be the reason or the method that you guys think it's going to be. So the first things first, I just want to talk about Charles having no chance in this fight. A lot of people are counting Charles out. If you look at DraftKings right now, Islam Makhachev is a minus 340.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty big line, but it's not the minus 700s, 800s we've seen from Islam Makhachev.
Right. And, I mean, rightfully so. Obviously the first fight, first of all, going into that first fight, I don't think you or me or anybody expected it to be quite that one-sided and quick. But, yeah, what do you think? Are the odds where they should be? Are they too aggressive?
I think they're about right.
Yeah.
The point being here is we've seen much bigger lines on Islam Makhachev fights. Yep. We've seen much bigger lines in general throughout the history of MMA. So Vegas is basically telling you here, minus 340 is good, but it's not like a certainty, right? We've seen Amanda Nunes lose to Juliana Pena with bigger odds.
Sean Strickland, literally, a couple weeks ago?
Sean Strickland just did it.
I thought that was like one of the biggest upsets in fight history.
Right.
Truthfully.
So, that happened. Point here being that minus 340, it's not crazy. Because the return, I think, is like Charles, like plus 280 or something like that.
So even Vegas is giving him a shot.
Exactly, right? So the odds makers are giving him a shot. A lot of UFC fighters are picking him to win. So that's number 1.
For what it's worth, too, on Tapology, Tapology is
very
all fans voting, obviously, For what it's worth, and maybe this speaks, if nothing else, to Charles' star power, 58-42 for Islam.
Yeah.
So damn near 50-50.
I think that's about right. Second thing I want to talk about, Dino, the Alexander Volkanovski fight.
Yep.
First and foremost, I understand how good Alex Volkanovski is. I know you do. I'm sure you guys do as well. He's the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world.
Yep.
Alex Volkanovski is really him, like absolutely no doubt about it.
If we're actually going by pound for pound, like literal pounds, for sure.
100%, right? So the fight with Alex and Islam, unbelievable. It went 5 rounds. It showed some holes in Islam Makhachev's game.
It did. It showed holes. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how much of that is the greatness of Alexander Volkanovski? How much of that is Islam Makhachev maybe not being who we thought he was at that point?
Yeah, I think, if anything, it showed you that he is beatable, right? A lot of people, myself included, thought that Volk won that fight, right?
Yeah.
Based off damage. So, yeah, like you said, I think that fight absolutely showed some holes in his game. And, there's some certain things that you still cannot do with him, right? But Volk had a good game plan going into it. Charles Oliveira, I mean, who works harder than Charles Oliveira? I'm sure that he's watched the Volk fight. I mean, I'm sure he studied it just like we have. And
well, he was there, I think.
I mean, yeah. But even just watching it back, I mean,
certainly
there are things to be learned there. And, I mean, let's be honest. Islam is decent on the feet. That fight showed that Islam
he's better than a lot of people thought he is.
Better than people thought he is on the feet. But he's not some technical marvel. I mean, he's got good power. Obviously, he's a weight bully in the weight class. But, yeah, I mean, to me, you know, if you're a really technical striker like Charles Oliveira is, that is an advantage. I mean, on the feet, Charles Oliveira absolutely should be the better fighter. Does he have more power? Maybe, probably not, you know. Yeah. But technically and just purely skill-based, you know, as far as fighting goes on the feet, Charles Oliveira should have that advantage there.
Yeah, and my thing with that fight, the biggest thing for me was when Islam Makhachev, the biggest takeaway, was when Islam Makhachev cannot 100% dominate you and get you in the position that he wants, where he is dominant, which of course is the ground game. It's up against the cage, right? When he can't completely control his opponent, you know, it doesn't fare well for him. Or he still won the fight.
Right.
He still looked great, you know, all things included. But at the end of the day, it was like that was the most human we've seen him look, right?
100%.
So when he can't dominate, he doesn't look as good as we thought he could.
I also just want to say, I think there's a mentality aspect to it. I feel like Islam, there are doubts in his own game. Like, I believe he is very confident, but there are times, like, when you watch him, especially when Khabib was cornering him, it's almost like you had to, like, encourage him to, like, do certain things. So maybe that a little bit of that has gone away as he's been in these big, you know, huge fights with these big names and, you know, tough fights, like, versus Volk. But, yeah, I mean, for me, Charles must gain his respect on the feet and do it early. If he doesn't, it's going to be a long night at the office because Charles has the capability. We've seen him put some power on people. We've seen him drop Gaethje. We've seen him all the guys. I mean, what
Chandler, Gaethje,
Poirier. He dropped all of them, right? Yeah. So he's got the power. It's not like these are guys who have just like loose chin ass guys who are just walking around just getting knocked out. Like, so the power is there. I really hope the confidence is there for Charles. You know, like I hope he's not. If he goes into this and he's like indecisive and he's got to be decisive. He's got to gain that respect on the feet early. And if he doesn't, like I said, it'll be a long night. But if he does and is able to put some of that doubt into Islam and gain that respect early, I think he's going to have a lot easier fight ahead of him. It's not going to be easy either way. But no matter what, I think he needs to win that first round. Whether a finish would be obviously the best.
Right.
His chances of finishing the fight go down as the fight goes on. But yeah, no matter how it goes, he needs to win that first round.
Well said, because the last time I think Charles Oliveira, while he was throwing weird, flashy, funky shit, like he started with like a flying kick or whatever it was, while he was doing that, he seemed skittish. He didn't seem as in your face as he was with
100%.
I was at the Justin Gaethje fight, UFC 274. He was nonstop from the beginning in Justin Gaethje's face. Same thing with the Poirier fight. He was marching him down. He was getting cracked, but he didn't care. No. He kept moving forward. Same thing with the Beneil fight. Even after he got taken down, he got up and he was immediately attacking Beneil with head kicks and shit like that. So,
why did he look so skittish against Islam? Is it just the threat of the wrestling? The threat of the takedown?
I think it's the threat of the takedown.
I also just think about your theory.
Yeah.
That you told me. I just thought about it. It is a very elaborate theory. Is it time to...
No, that's another story. That's like a 20-minute video
That is itself. A 20-minute video in itself. Okay.
But here's the thing. It's like he looked very skittish against him. He hasn't looked that way against any of those other guys.
Dude, he dominated Beneil.
Right. Dominated Beneil, which was crazy.
I did not expect it. And that's a good wrestler, too.
That's what I'm saying.
Dominated.
A southpaw wrestler at that. So
Beneil looked as bad against... If we're taking them at face value, that's just who these people are.
Yeah.
Like, whereas I thought, like, Beneil had a chance against Islam, it's like, Charles looked that much better than Beneil as Islam did to Charles. Like,
exactly.
It was pure domination both ways. So anyways,
one more thing before we get into how we think he wins this fight, if he does win this fight. No matter what happened, right? This is MMA, and this sounds really stupid, but it takes one shot. And we know from the last handful of fights and from Charles Oliveira in general over the years in the UFC, he is dangerous, man. And if Charles Oliveira tags you, he does have some serious power. I don't know if he has like that one-shot kill power, but he has power to hurt people badly and drop them, and get them wobbly, and it's like he can knock you out. And if that happens, he could take Islam's back, and at that point, that's not a good position for Islam Makhachev to be in.
Yeah.
So it can happen. It can happen that way, right?
It 100% can. My only thing with that is I just don't want Charles to be throwing a lot of spinning shit, right? You don't want to, basically like the Valentina Shevchenko thing, right? Where it's like, oh, you slipped up, a worse grappler than you. You slipped up, you got caught because you tried to throw some spinning shit. You ended up in a choke and you got choked out, right? So I don't think that. I mean, obviously Islam is in a world of his own when it comes to the grappling,
of course.
But dude, absolutely, we just talked about the people that Charles has dropped. My only concern is that he was losing. I believe
every one of those
pretty
fights,
much at every
except
one of
the
those
Beneil
fights,
fight,
except the Beneil,
which he
fight.
was taken down.
He was taken down, so that gives me a little bit of hope too. So I mean, just that in its own too.
He doesn't. Charles Oliveira, he's not that quitter. That remember there was like that whole. There was that thing going around, right? When he was fighting Chandler for the title.
Right.
There was like the whole Charles Oliveira is a quitter. I'm going to make the quitter come out of him.
Charles Oliveira is also a finisher.
Right. Justin Gaethje was saying the same thing. That's the thing.
Justin Gaethje, by the way, said Charles Oliveira is the hardest that he's been hit.
Right. So.
Just like, right?
He did say that. He said like he felt like lightning in his tongue or something every time he was getting punched. Some weird shit.
Right.
But anyways, here's how I think Charles Oliveira has to win this fight. I think what he has to do is immediately from the get-go, like you said, he needs to get respect early.
Yep.
Like, he needs to get that respect very quickly. I think Charles Oliveira needs to march down Islam Makhachev with reckless abandon. And I don't mean, like you said, don't go for the spinning shit. Don't go for the wild, like, I don't need any spinning back fists. I don't need any of those kind of kicks. Do the switch knee that Charles likes to do. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Stay down the pipe. Ones and twos down the pipe. Attack him. Get Islam on the back foot. Because Islam Makhachev, for what it's worth, on the feet is a counter striker. Islam Makhachev, for what it's worth, when we've seen him against this higher level comp, he's a slower starter. Of course, against the worst guys, he absolutely dominates them. It makes sense. He's good. He's really good. But against the higher level competition, he doesn't dominate them until a little later on, right? We had the Thiago Moises fight. I think that went into the 4th round because he's a slow starter. Definitely. He's a counter striker. He starts off on the back foot. He likes to get the feel for the fight. And if Charles Oliveira last time out let him get into the fight. Because he was doing all that stupid shit, all the spinning shit. Then he gave up a dumb takedown, gave up a bad position, and then in the 2nd round got clipped because he gave Islam time to adjust to what he was doing. I think if Charles comes out with straight 1s and 2s, kicks up the middle, if they clinch, start banging those knees to the body like he does, I think that's his best chance. And believe it or not, contrary to the Volk fight, Volk's recipe was to take Islam to deep waters and drown him. And he almost did that. And you said you think he won. Watching it live, I thought he won. A lot of people thought he won. But Islam Makhachev won the fight, and a lot of people think Islam Makhachev won the fight. But the recipe held true. Like, that's how you beat him if you're Alex Volkanovski. Charles Oliveira, I don't think that's a good recipe for him.
No.
I think Charles Oliveira, believe it or not, has to knock out Islam Makhachev or sub him very quickly, 1st or 2nd round, early 3rd at the latest. Because the style does not lend itself to a decision for Charles, because at some point you're going to give up a round or 2 rounds by making a mistake and Islam ending up on top of you, and that's best case scenario is you just let him ride out the round because he can finish you very quickly, and then even if it's close, I see no world where in Abu Dhabi Charles Oliveira gets a decision win.
You're probably right about that. You're probably right about that. I also think, for what it's worth, Charles should work the body. Alex Volkanovski had some success with some kicks to the body, some punches to the body. So how was Alex Volkanovski able to keep this fight on the feet, whereas Charles Oliveira was not? Do you think it's just Charles' confidence in his ground game, where he allows it to get there? Or do you think, there's a lot of mentality to it. I think there's a lot of psychology in this fight specifically. So I also think Alex Volkanovski is just physically stronger than Charles Oliveira. I know he might be a little smaller, all things considered. I just think he's physically stronger. And also, Volk was supremely confident going into this fight. You can't fake the kind of confidence that Volk had. So I think there's a lot of psychology to this. Charles needs to go in. He can't cower. He can't hesitate. He can't think twice about anything. He needs to gain respect, work the body, throw things down the pipe, and just keep the pressure on Islam. He can't give him he has to put the fear of God, the fear of Charles into him too, right? To some extent.
Yeah, I get that. And I agree. And I think that's the only way Charles Oliveira wins this fight. And last time out, he did look scared, man. For what it's worth,
he did. I don't know if he had a bad camp or
well, you remember if you remember, they were out there like 40 deep, like
Yeah.
the shoot the box guys.
Yeah.
They were taking all the pictures. They were doing like the tour of Abu Dhabi. They were going to like the petting zoo with lions and shit, like camel riding and doing whatever the fuck they were doing. Like they were out there deep, and it seemed like the closer we got to fight day, the fight night, like Charles seemed a little more hesitant. Like he didn't seem himself in the press conference.
Didn't see himself walking out.
He didn't seem himself at the face-offs at all.
Yep.
And this time out, I think Charles Oliveira is coming with a different mentality.
I hope so, man.
I think he has nothing to lose
piece of
anymore,
this.
Dino.
Yeah.
I really think he has nothing to lose anymore.
I think he does, man. If he loses this in decisive fashion,
yeah,
that's it. Like,
yeah,
as
of course,
far
that's
as,
it.
That's it. You know, like, it's not a good matchup for you.
Yeah. So at that point, do you think the star power of Charles Oliveira is gone?
I think it'll take a big hit.
Where does it? Who's number one then? At that point.
Man.
Random question, has nothing to do with this video. But
it's hard to say.
Who takes
I
over
still
that one
think
spot?
Charles will be. If Charles puts on a good performance, I don't think it'll affect the star power too much.
Like Volk.
If he gets dominated, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good, and then you're in a weird place because it's like he's probably going to beat the shit out of whoever he fights. You know, after that, and then we have like the Holloway Volkanovski thing going on, then. And it's like, now what?
Right.
Islam should just move the shit up. To be honest,
and he said he would. He wants to fight at 170. Colby Covington's hoping for a matchup.
I love Colby. I really don't. I don't need him to hold the belt hostage, but
that would be funny though.
It would be.
Islam versus Colby would be hilarious.
God. Oh my god.
Clash of styles, two different personalities. But anyways,
very different religions.
Anyways. So, final thoughts. We're not giving our predictions here.
Right.
But
which we will.
Which we absolutely will. Stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this and you're looking forward to that fight breakdown. We do full card breakdowns. We're about to record one for this week's episode. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. Final thoughts, Dino?
No, man, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I would love to see Charles win.
Do we get an immediate trilogy?
No, if he wins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get the automatic.
You know Dana loves that shit.
Yeah, so we get the automatic trilogy.
I mean,
do we get it in Sao Paulo this time?
Oh my god,
Rio?
we
you
must.
Know what I'm saying?
We must. We must. If they don't, that's some bullshit.
That would be fun.
They need to do that.
That'd be really fun. Yeah, guys, he's DS. I'm Dino Bam Bam. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at the107MMA. Same way it's spelled on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.